Hey, howdy, hey, friends and neighbors. Scott here, and today we're going to talk about curly dock, also known as yellow dock, and several other names. And this is in the Rumex genus. There are several of these, and you don't have to be real concerned about getting just the right species of these because they're pretty well all edible. I guess I can't promise that every single member is edible, but they're a pretty safe group. Lots of them are. And you're going to find curly dock all over the place, just about all over the world, and it loves to be around people. It's one of those kind of plants. It moves into disturbed soils, so when we get in and do anything, when people make a road, or they, plow a field, make a garden, dig around, it's going to pop up in the ground there. So roadsides, gardens, yards, that kind of thing. It does like moist ground, but you'll find it in dry spots sometimes. Now the name curly dock, curly refers to the waviness on the edge of the leaves, and some of them curl more than others. And there's another one that the broadleaf dock, that sometimes its edges are a little curly and not as curly as the other, but again, it's not super critical that you get just the exact right species here. Taste may vary. Nutritionally, these are good food plants, especially the leaves. We tend to eat the leaves more. The root is actually full of nutrition. It's super good, but we usually don't treat it like a food. We just use it almost like a supplement. So it's a good source of carbohydrates, potassium, fiber. It's got a lot of iron. Sometimes you'll hear claims that it's got just a lot of iron, and they get a little fanciful about how much iron people say that it has. But it does have a good solid amount of iron. It's got protein, magnesium, vitamin C, it's got vitamin A, manganese, phosphorus, lots of, trace things. Because, it has a deep root. It goes down there and it draws up the minerals from deep in the soil and it brings them over to you. So, alright, this is a good time. Let's just pop on outside and take a look at one of these and see how to identify it. Alright. Well, let's identify yellow dock. So yellow dock is also called curly dock, and the curly one, that's going to be easier for you to remember. I've got one of these right here at my feet. It has this long sort of lance or sword-shaped leaf, and the edges are indeed curly. That's why it's curly dock. So curly dock means curly leaf. You'll see that the veins are pretty visible. On the underside of the leaf, the veins, you can actually feel them. They're bumpy, they stick up. So that's a sort of a secondary characteristic. You can also, if you're not sure, you can taste them. Honestly, they don't taste that great. They're a little bitter. And they will grow, I'm gonna need to borrow this. They will grow a stalk in, mid-late summer and on into fall, and it'll hang around through winter and obviously until the next spring. A stalk about 3 feet tall, or about, yay tall, so I guess a little more than 3 feet. And it'll be branched, especially towards the top, and it'll make all these little seeds. And the seeds have edible properties, but we're not going to talk about those right this moment. The leaves grow in a basal rosette. It means they come out from the ground in sort of a circular formation. Now, let's go ahead and dig up the root and we'll discover why it's called yellow dock. Now, it'd be more convenient to dig this up with a shovel or a gardening fork, but I'm going to make do with this. Let me see if I can, the ground's pretty wet. If I can reach down here and get a finger around the roots, I'll be able to pull this thing up. Aw, broke it. Well, use an actual shovel when you want to dig yours up, or a gardening fork. Okay, so it has a taproot, kind of like a carrot, and it might be split. That happens, but generally, well, I guess they don't always have one main taproot. I guess they do kind of split, and they'll have a few main ones sometimes. But here's why they're called yellow dock. If you open on the inside, they ought to be a real vibrant yellow. Now this one is not a real vibrant yellow. This would not be the best quality one. The best ones
are a deep, rich yellow. This one's kind of pale. Now, you can still use it. It's still going to have the medicinal and the edible value, but it's not a real high quality root. And it has a lot to do with where they grow. This one grew in a place I was growing something here last year, and so it got watered pretty frequently, so it didn't have to work very hard to take care of itself, so it wasn't a very good quality root. It wasn't real dense packed in. If you harvest it from some corner of the yard or a field where it doesn't get any help, maybe it's a little extra dry, and it tends to have its nutrients and properties a lot more concentrated, and it'll have that more vibrant yellow, and that's the best. That's the one that you're going for. The leaves, typically you want the younger leaves. These do have some oxalic acid in them, which can give people troubles. But the younger ones are a little better. But you can make the bigger ones work, and they still are very, very nutritious. It's a high nutrition plant. Okay, let's take some of these in and see what we can do with them. Look, here we found one. It's even got the little seeds on it. How do you like that? Hey, maybe I'll grab these up. We can use these too. Demonstration time.
And we're back from inside. And obviously I did that right now and didn't pre-record that. Don't worry that I changed into a different shirt and back into this one. That's just how I do things. And let's look at some of the uses, and then we'll actually go into the kitchen and use some of those leaves. Okay, so the leaves are eaten raw or cooked. More often they're cooked. The young leaves are eaten raw a little more often. They have a nice tart, lemony taste. The older leaves get kind of bitter, and they might get a little tough. Boiling can help sometimes, but there's probably a point of no return with these. Now, they do have an oxalic acid content, which can be irritating to the kidneys. It can irritate your mouth and throat if there's enough of it. But sometimes this chemical kind of gets made into a foraging boogeyman. It is harmful when you get too much of it, and it kind of depends on who you are, how much it's going to irritate you. But spinach has oxalic acid, chocolate has oxalic acid. A lot of the foods that we already eat contain this. So this is not like something you've never been exposed to before. Your own body produces oxalic acid, okay? This is not toxic waste. It's just a little bit too much of a good thing, right? So that's why we boil it sometimes, to help leach out some of the oxalic acid, kind of bring it down. This is probably not a plant that you would want to eat a bunch of every day over a long period of time. It can increase your chance of getting like a gout type of thing. It can increase your chances of getting a kidney stone. And if you already deal with those sort of things, you might want to shy away from this plant. Maybe only get little bits of it here and there. So how do you fix the leaves? Usually just saute them in some oil or some butter. You could chop them up and throw them in a stew with the rest of your greens. It depends on the flavor, what you want to add them to. Something like a stew would be good because everything mixes together. Sometimes greens are really neat to chop up and throw in an omelet. I don't know if I personally would put these in an omelet or not. Not the older leaves. Maybe the younger leaves might be all right. The root is usually not eaten just straight as a food. It's usually well, you want to dry it first. I've never tried this, but I've always heard that if you eat the root fresh, it can cause vomiting. So I've always used the dry root. I've never actually experimented. Hey, let's just go eat one of those fresh roots and see if it makes us throw up, huh? I haven't been brave enough to try that. So I'll pass on a little advice from I'm going to call it advice from ignorance because I've never tested it. But we dry the root first. And before you dry the root, the thing is you want to do anything you're going to do to the root first. If you're going to chop it up, go ahead and chop it up before it gets dry, because it is a pain to deal with the root after it's already dried up. And then just cut it into pieces, whatever size your blender or your food processor or that your herb grinder can handle. And then when you're ready to use it, you can grind the thing up into a powder, and you can add that to a drink or something else. Or you can use it in a decoction, which is really more of a medicinal thing we're going to talk about in a bit. But you can take the root chunks and put them in some water and just let them simmer for a half hour, an hour, until it pulls out as much of the the minerals as you want it to. It pulls, makes the water nice and discolored and and tastes kind of yucky. The seeds are also edible, and I think that the seeds are one of the better parts. Some people disagree. I think it probably depends on the species. It may depend on where your plant was growing, and if it was a happy plant or a grouchy plant. It may just depend on personal taste. But they're really easy to gather because they grow this tall seed stalk, right? And you just get your hand and kind of close your fingers around it here and kind of make a cup with your hand and run your hand up it, and then you got a bunch of them. And you can collect a ton of those things in a short amount of time. There's a little bit of processing involved, but it doesn't have to be awful. Some of the websites talk about it like it's this epic process, and it doesn't have to be. You want to get the seed coat off, or the chaff off of the seed. So you can run over them with a rolling pin, and that'll do it, but that might take a while. Or just pop the suckers into a food processor or a blender or something, and just, run them through there for a while. Don't worry if it's going to break the seeds open. You'd actually like that to happen anyway, so that when you eat them, you can pull the nutrients out. But run them through there and knock everything off of them, knock the sense out of them, and then pour them out into a bowl and get yourself another bowl, and go outside on a sort of windy day and slowly pour it from one bowl into the other, and it'll blow the chaff away. And if it's not too windy, then it won't blow the seeds away with it. You can do the same thing inside with a fan. Now, eating the chaff is not going to kill you. There's nothing poisonous in it. It's just a bunch of undigestible fiber. So it's some roughage for you. And not that the plant needs any help, but it would be really easy to spread these around. If you wanted to grow a bunch of yellow dock, just kind of dig up some ground, go out and grab a handful of seeds, and just, there you go, grow. And it'll do it. So medicinally, we have a lot of good properties here. One is it's astringent, so it helps to tighten and tone tissues. If you've got some stings or inflammation, if you've got like eczema, it's really good with eczema. You can do it topically, and it will help to pull inflammation out of there and kind of calm the area down. And it also has some antimicrobial properties, so it can help to keep the area from getting infected. I'm not sure that it's the strongest antimicrobial, but it's decent. It's also got a laxative property, and it's a liver sort of tonic. It just helps keep your liver happy, and a happy liver is very important because your liver does a whole lot of very important work for the body, and if it's not happy, you're not going to be happy either. So it's laxative, but it's usually a mild laxative. I usually tell people to always start slow with a laxative, even if it's supposed to be mild, because nobody wants to get surprised, right? So add it in slowly, and see how your body adjusts to it, just to make sure you don't have a special affinity for this plant. Your body goes, oh boy, I love the laxative quality of this. Now, let's jump back to eczema for just a minute. So I said we could use it topically for eczema, and we can, as a poultice, as a spray, as a fomentation, lots of different stuff. But what would be really nice is if you use it internally to help clean out your liver and calm your body, and then and nourish your body, and then your body can help take care of the eczema from the inside out. That would be really nice. So for that, people usually like to do either a decoction of the root, like we talked about. You can drink a cup or two of that a day, maybe 3, depends on how much you can tolerate and all that. Or you could use a tablespoon or 2 of powdered root, maybe up to like 4 of them. You stir it in water and choke that stuff down. This would be a really good time to have those empty herbal pills, and you can fill the little pills up and just take a bunch of those pills. And that would be very nourishing for your body and help with the eczema. Well, although you might want to get just a little bit in your mouth and swallow it too, because part of its cleansing power comes from its bitter nature. It's a bitter herb because it tastes bitter, and that stimulates the digestive juices, and that's part of what stimulates the cleansing of the liver. Oh, here's a good one. At one time it was used as a tooth powder. You can dry the root and powder it, and because it's astringent, because it's antimicrobial, and it's kind of coarse too, it makes an all-around good tooth powder. It was used especially with spongy gums, apparently. I haven't done that before, and well, great, now I have to, because I have to know how well it works. Okay, I ground up some of the root. I have a toothbrush. not that bad. I was expecting it to be real bitter. I don't know that it's doing a really good job, though. Let me get some more over here. There's an experiment. Oh, there's some of the taste I was not looking forward to. Yeah. Yellow dock root is also a prebiotic, meaning that it's good for the gut flora in your belly. And those guys are really important, so we want to make sure that they're happy because they help you to be happy too. Did you know that the gut flora in your digestive system, they produce neurotransmitters that are used in your brain? And there's a lot of evidence that various emotional or otherwise mental issues, things like depression or attention deficit, that those may actually be gut problems. And I mean, we're still pretty early on in the research on that, so I don't want to try to make any firm claim, especially because I'm not a doctor and I'm not making any medical claims here. I'm just giving you education and entertainment, right? But yeah, there's a good amount of evidence that those type of problems may in fact be gut problems, problem with gut health. So feed those bugs, and those bugs will feed your brain. If you don't like the taste, you might be able to make a syrup with it. We'll have to do a video about syrups, but a syrup is, you just get whatever you're gonna make, like your dock root in this case, and you can make a real strong infusion, or I guess it'd be a decoction with dock roots. So put some root in the water and simmer it for a long time. Get all the good minerals and all the qualities out of there, and then strain out your root pieces and put it back in there with the water. Then add a bunch of sugar and stir it up and evaporate the water out until that stuff turns into a syrup. And then it doesn't taste as bad because it has a bunch of sugar in it. And that's a way to get kids to take stuff too. Sometimes that's a way to get a husband or a wife to take stuff too, because it has to taste good. And if you bring people stuff that tastes awful, they're not going to trust you the next time. Reportedly, if a nursing mother takes too much yellow dock, it can give the baby diarrhea. I've never used it with a nursing mother, actually. I don't use this one very much medicinally. I have, but I use it a lot more just as an edible. And even then, I don't use it a whole lot because I personally don't care for the taste of it. Another caution, since it does classify as a bitter plant, if you have ulcers or bad acid reflux, it could aggravate those. So do be aware. And we've talked about the oxalic acid content. And we've talked about chopping up the roots. So good. I think we've done a good basic overview. Let's go ahead and make a few things with them now and taste them. Okay, so here that is. A real simple bread with the yellow dock seeds, and then we sauteed up some of the leaves. I think I got them a little overdone, but I like it crunchy, so that's good. And I just put them together. Look at that. It's a little thing. Now, we could have added anything else, seasonings, mix in lots of other vegetables and things. This is a very plain, just, a yellow dock type of a meal or snack. Depends on how hungry you are. But yeah, we could have got real fancy with this. But, little extra piece of bread. One thing here on the bread, I didn't mean to include the chaff with the seed, but, I found that one stalk that had been there since last year and just happened to have some seeds clinging to it. And, they were still good. It's still okay to eat it, but it was no longer prime foraging. And it's been raining, so I pulled them out and I, put them in the grinder. And I tried to separate the hulls and the seeds, and they were just a little too damp. They weren't as dry as I wanted them to be. So I just toss the hulls in there, but you know, you can do that. They're not bad. Okay, I'm going to try a little bite of one of the bigger leaves first and talk about that, then one of the smaller leaves. So this was one of the big boys right here. Well, and I'll tell you what, when you sauce taste stuff in olive oil with salt, it all kind of tastes good, right? So that was actually good. I was going to have more juice in the stem. There's the lemony flavor. I'm getting a little bitter, but really, after I've done it in the olive oil, that is not bad at all. That was an old leaf. This is a lot better than the last time I ate it. Why don't I eat this more often? Okay, and here's a little guy. Now these ought to be even better. Okay, the end of the leaf. It tastes like something sauteed in olive oil. There's a lot more moisture in the stem, too. Okay. Now, my bread. It's bread. It's good. I could have added a lot more of these. Let's see. Oh, there's a picture. I could have added a lot more of the dock seeds. I'll try to eat it like this. Uh-oh. Okay, so there's a manners issue. Having food dragging off your plate. That was good. That was a lot better than I remembered. And that lemony taste going with it? Pre-seasoned. See, we get some kind of zombie apocalypse and you can't get lemons, you just eat some of this, right? I'm going to eat the rest of that in a minute. Now remember, it has oxalic acid, so if you have trouble with kidney stones or gout, things like that, if you're concerned with oxalic acid, you may not want to eat this or to eat it a lot less frequently. The rest of us can eat it more often. It's a pretty safe food to eat. You don't want to overdo it, just like you wouldn't want to binge on any one thing. But that's pretty tasty. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for Yellow Dock. I hope that it has clarified some things and educated you and inspired you to go out and try some for yourself, because there sure is a lot of it. And I'll be back here real soon with another video. We're going to talk about the infamous and majestic dandelion. So I'll see you in the very next video. Bye.